What are some possible explanations that the researchers concluded about UFOs and ET?
At the end of this series, and after we talked about the history of this phenomenon and classified it and knew the studies carried out by specialists, and after we talked about the possibility of the existence of simple life or intelligent life outside the planet, and we talked about the hypothesis of cults in summary, we list the possible explanations that the researchers concluded in this field. There are 4 possible explanations as follows. First, there are natural phenomena, such as clouds, especially lenticular clouds that move and are subject to atmospheric changes around them. It always occurs on top of a steep mountain, like for example in California, Manchester, where UFOs arrive. Or it could be the motions of the planet Venus and other astronomical phenomena. Second explanation. There are balloons from several purposes, such as studying weather and temperatures, carrying detectors and the like, or satellite movements in Earth's orbit. Third explanation. There are balloons for secret military purposes that carry detectors to monitor the movements of countries' enemies. They may be secret experiments by the US intelligence and armed forces, or planes flying at high altitude, or drones. For example, the Roswell incident is a military balloon of the Air Force that was watching the Soviets exploded, and the US government was silent about announcing its truth. In his book, The Invisible College, Dr. Valley recommends this interpretation and said, quote, "We are not dealing with successive waves of visits from space, but with an intelligent control system," and adds that what happens through encounters with flying objects is the control of human beliefs. With every wave of UFOs, its social influence increases, and the number of young people fascinated by space, psychological phenomena, or new horizons of consciousness increases, and thus more books and articles appear and change our culture. End quote. Fourth explanation. That is a part of a psychological and cultural phenomenon that increased at the beginning of the 20th century. With the beginning of the space and satellite era, Apollo arrival on the moon, scientific discoveries, and with the spread of science fiction stories and various hypotheses launched by people and groups, and with the spread of movies and books that talk about these topics as if they were reality. Some called it modern mythology post-technology. In this socio-cultural phenomenon, the evildoers are governments and their agents who hide the reality of UFOs and aliens, and the heroes are those who believe in it, which mean the ufolog and the followers of cults who are active to show the truth to the world. Even the aliens in this phenomenon have evolved over time as luminous and wonderful beings into grey beings that represent our great hopes and fears, as in the mythological symbols. Sometimes they are coming to rid humanity of corruption and wars, and sometimes they are ruthless invaders and do frightening experiments on humans for vague goals. Dr. Jack Valley, author of The Invisible College, says about UFOs that scientific researchers have become very close to understanding what these objects are, and it is noted that the idea of intelligent life in outer space has become in a few years an amazing intellectual fashion even among scientists and as among fortune tellers, as a result of the great thirst for contact with higher minds, will present guidance for our miserable, weary, and anxious planet, and that this phenomenon has become a great meat or wonderful lie in our days. He compares this technique to the irrational techniques of Zen meditation teachers and notes the similarities between UFO encounters and rituals of esoteric paths that open the mind to a new set of symbols, which he says is the next new form of religion. Thus, these anonymous encounters are nothing more than a contemporary revival of a form of magic. On the other hand, Dr. Allen Hynek confirms the psychological characteristic of this phenomenon, saying, quote, "We must admit that it is a phenomenon that undoubtedly has physical symptoms and the characteristics of the psychological world as well." End quote. He also talks elsewhere about the possibility of engineered scenes, as in the Photoshop application. It is noted that this phenomenon has gradually disappeared in the last 10 years because people have become accustomed to the space age and are no longer surprised. What is remarkable is that with the spread of smartphones equipped with cameras, there are no certificates. However, in recent months, some media outlets have returned to talk about it. We do not know why. On the other hand, we point out that there are applications on phone in which the person manipulates the video clip and adds to the scene flying dishes that look like real. Despite all the testimonies and allegations, scholars remain skeptical about this hypothesis, especially since there is no real evidence to prove it. In conclusion, it appears to us from all of the above that it is more likely a socio-cultural phenomenon than a scientific space phenomenon, which was promoted by people with the aim of fame and money, or cults and groups that believe in these phenomena. The issue is a matter of belief in this phenomenon and not according to evidence. The agnostic and skeptic John Keel says, quote, "The story of UFOs is a story of strange ghosts, spirits, and mental delusions, of an invisible world that surrounds us and sometimes even swallows us. It is a world of illusion. UFO appearances in general look a little different from the very ancient phenomenon of demon." End quote. Dr. Hynek and Dr. Valley do not rule out that they come from evil spirits leaving physical traces.